Welcome back to the Depleted Key podcast, where we discuss all things World of Warcraft. Today is March 1st, 2021. I'm Tarithal, and joining with me, as always, is Spoogy.
What's up, man? So, how was your week?
It was an interesting week. Come Tuesday, our raid leader was out sick, so I ended up having to raid lead. And we ended up doing the last 4 bosses on Heroic, and then we did the first 2 bosses on Mythic. We wanted to prep for Thursday just to get some attempts on Hungry Destroyer. And man, I mean, we had like most of our raid team gone, and so we just brought in basically all these new trials. We got everything down. I was pretty happy about that. We got to Mythic Hungry Destroyer on Thursday, and we killed it.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Pretty happy about that.
Y'all been stuck on that for 3 weeks or so, maybe 4 weeks?
Yeah, we haven't really put any good time into it. We tried a couple of different strategies. So the normal strategy and the one, if you watch like Limit Max, is to basically have 4 groups. You know, you make either the diamond or the square, you know, and you have a couple people stand next to each circle.
Mm-hmm.
And to heal the people up, you know, before the key abilities. And then that's kind of the strategy, right? And they expect you to have a certain healing comp. 2 Disc Priests is preferred with a couple Shamans. Our guild doesn't really have the healing makeup for that.
What do you run with? I know you played the Disc Priest.
Yeah, I play a Disc Priest. Typically, we do have a Holy Paladin. And then after that, we have a Holy Priest, who is actually a fairly new player, but she does really, really well. But she only knows how to play Holy, and when she joined the guild, it was kind of contingent as being, hey, I only want to play Holy. And we're like, okay, that's fine.
Okay, you don't really see too many of those.
No, you don't really. And actually, she pumps. Like, she does a lot of healing, so.
That's good.
And then we have 2 Druids. So, I mean, our comp is a little wonky. Specifically for that fight, it's not optimal. From a raid leading perspective, we were having trouble kind of like seeing where all the issues were with the fight. You know, we were having people just randomly fall over, and I'm sitting there tunneling on my healing charts, you know, on my grid, just because I'm a Disc Priest. I got to make sure all my timings are right. So I was having trouble kind of like identifying where all the issues were.
Yeah.
So then we ended up going to this 4 tank strat, which essentially you have 2, like a main tank and off tank, and then you have 2 off tanks that soak some of the miasmas. It's really kind of awkward. You kind of take the responsibility from everyone else away. So they no longer really have to move in and like heal people up. It's up to the off tanks to do it with a couple sparing people to help out. And then that wasn't really working out. And so we went back to the original strategy using an add-on. That didn't really work out. And so finally, I had people split into 2 different groups and do a 2-group strat. And that's the one that we ended up getting our kill on. And so that's been a journey. That was fun.
Well, it is very hard to kind of pay attention and raid lead when you're in the healing role, because I know personally, I feel like sometimes my eyes just get way too in tune to the bars and making sure that all that's, you know, everybody's staying up and I'm maximizing that. I feel like range DPS is the best, you know? Yeah,
and kind of what happened with our guild is we had a couple officers leave, and I kind of casually mentioned to the guild leader at the time, I'm like, if people are still around, you know, and, you know, we don't have enough for Mythic, but people still want to do a heroic raid, I'm happy to kind of fill in the interim just to make sure that people are still able to at least do like 1 raid a week.
Right.
And then I guess the officers that left kind of expected more people to go with them because they wanted to start their own guild.
Mm-hmm.
And no one did. So we still had our full raiding roster, but they needed someone else to kind of like help raid lead. And so when our normal raid leader was out, I kind of had to do that, you know, but it's been fun.
It's always fun when you get that boss and all of a sudden it just clicks across the entire raid. You know, you got 20 people, they're all of a sudden on the same page, and then you just go that much further with the boss. Because I know you guys were kind of stuck at, you kind of hit 30% a couple times, and you kind of backtracked a little bit with the other strat to 45%. Next thing I know, you guys had killed it. That's always a great feeling. I felt that way with Heroic Sire.
Yeah.
I felt like we were very consistently getting to that 10%-ish health, and it was just always right there. We're just everything, the wheels fall off, and I mean, we may get a little bit lower, but you know, that's where the wheels will fall off, and you know, the entire fight would just go to crap. And it was like all of a sudden everything just clicked in place, and that's always a great feeling. And it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, we're here. We're that was a 3% pull. All right, we got this, and it kind of perks you up, you know.
Yeah, that's
that drive back.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened on this boss too, because it's a very repetitive boss. So there's like 2 core mechanics that just happen over and over and over. And those are the two that you're essentially having your people heal everyone up for.
Right.
And it's the same rotation over and over and over, but it's difficult, especially as like a disc priest, to make sure that you're paying attention to all the timers and like assisting people with the callouts while, you know, maintaining your perfect ramp, you know, to make sure no one's taking more damage than they need to. So yeah, we were kind of going back and forth with that, and all of a sudden on Thursday, we just all died randomly, and we're like, "What just happened?" Like, we just all died. Like, did someone screw up? And then we realized we had gone 7 minutes into the fight, which is the Hardened Rage. We're like, "Oh, holy crap!" Like,
Oh yeah.
we got this. And so we probably hit the Hardened Rage another 2 times. And once again, I said we brought some trials in with us this week, and so we didn't really know, you know, like what our DPS limitations were. So after that, it was just a little bit of fine tuning, and we got it down. We actually had an hour left of the raid, so we just kind of chilled out, did a BOE run, and called it for a night.
And you've actually been doing a lot of those BOE runs, and
Yeah.
you had a pretty good week because you ended up getting 2 pieces out of this is Mythic BOE farming.
Yeah.
And I believe you traded those into, I think you sold them, and then you bought 2 others for your monk.
Yeah, no, actually, I got more than that. That's probably like the last I told you, but yeah. So a buddy of mine in the guild ended up finding this group that's run by a bunch of Indonesians on our server, and they've got a community set up where literally all day, all they do is just BOE farm, like all day. I'm serious, like for the entire week. I'm only in the group on my tank, and anytime I log in, within 3 minutes of me logging in, I'll get an invite for that group. So basically, I've just been doing it in my free time. So if it's like, you know, 11 o'clock at night and I'm not real tired, I'll just go and run a couple times and try to get a couple pieces.
So you made out pretty good this week then.
Yeah, I ended up getting 4 BOEs total out of it, and I invited a couple of my friends and they got BOEs too. But yeah, a couple of the BOEs I actually equipped, and a couple of them I sold. And then I used some of the extra money that I had that I actually won through gambling with these people during the runs to buy a couple more BOEs, and ended up getting, oh man, I think I ended up getting about 5 BOEs total that I actually put on my characters this week.
That is crazy. Were they spread out among your characters?
Yeah, so some of them I sold and then used the money to repurchase something that I could actually use. And it came out to be about the same amount of gold, you know, depending on what I got. And actually, after we killed Hunger, we killed all the trash up to Lady, and actually got a BOE to drop on my priest right after I got a piece off the boss. And so I got 2 more 226 pieces off of that. So yeah, I made out really well this week. I think
Very nice.
Yeah, I think my Demon Hunter went from 218 up to almost 222. I think my priest went from 215 up to 219, and my Windwalker monk, I might have got that wrong, but yeah, my Windwalker monk is 122 roughly as well. So all of my characters are around the 220 mark now.
That is crazy because, you know, when you get up to that level, getting that many eye levels in one go is crazy because, you know, you're starting to hit that plateau and the gear is not that much higher that you're putting on, you know, you're just, 226?
Yep.
So, you know, it's not like you're jumping the same way you know, when you're like 190, jumping to 194, that was not a big deal. But that's crazy that you did it on 3 characters. That's just a good week for you.
Yeah, not only that, but I spent a lot of time farming the vault too, so it's kind of cool that we did 3 mythic bosses because that unlocks the first slot, you know, in my vault for the mythic gear.
Right.
And so on my priest specifically, I have a chance to get a 226 piece out of the raid, and so just because we did the first 3 bosses, but I think the loot table is technically for the first 8 bosses, and so I can get a 226 piece, you know, from like Sun King or something like that. So I'm pretty excited to see what that turns into tomorrow. Yeah, and then typically I hate healing Mythic Plus on my priest, but this week was really chill for healers. And so I ended up I was timing 16s, which basically I haven't healed Mythic Plus on the priest. And then just randomly I decided, hey, I had a couple drinks, I was feeling good, let's go in and heal a couple 16s. And dude, I was crushing them this week. And so I've got 2 available vaults at 226 on my priest. And then I've got 2 on my Demon Hunter and then 1 on my Windwalker. So there's a good chance my Windwalker doesn't get anything this week, but the other 2 characters should be getting something.
Well, I had a pretty good week with the vault, but you know I've been playing Russian roulette just because I've been so busy.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to do as many Mythic Plus, and it came down to it. I thought this was the week that I was going to get screwed.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and my one piece that I really needed to target was my helm. I had a 207. And I just could not get rid of this thing and could not find an upgrade forever and a day.
Right.
And I had one vault choice this week, and I opened it up, and it was a helm.
Yeah, that's super lucky.
Boosted that to 226. So I survived the Russian roulette once again.
Did it have your stats on it, or was it
It
just
did, yeah. It was haste mastery.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's super
yeah,
good.
Yeah, so it was, not only that targeted the helm, but it was the, best in slot stats, and I was just super happy about that. So I did better this week across my characters. I at least got everybody a piece. My poor hunter hasn't had a vault in, 3 weeks now?
Okay.
So come tomorrow, he's going to get his first upgrade in a very long time.
Okay.
But got my mage. He only got like one choice, but the mage needs anything right now. So
What is it at?
I'm at like 191 ish, I think.
You haven't really played it a lot, so that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I've been trying to catch up on the campaign. I've been trying to do the Torghast farming. I did craft the like a rank 3, I think, legendary this week. So he finally has a legendary, so I can actually get in there and do some content. And I actually did 2 level 8 Torghastes on the mage, and it was a very slow go. Kind of close. I cut it down to, on my second one, I killed the guy on my very last life, and I was almost dead, but got it done. Got Torghast without having somebody hold my hand. But so it was a good feeling.
How many lives did you have left? Because technically, when you have 1 life left, you technically have 2. Once it hits 0, you have 1 more go.
Oh, I saw 1 on the thing.
Yeah, you technically had 2 lives then. I've had that happen before, and I was like so mad. And then I realized that homeboy wasn't chasing me. I'm like, oh, I guess I've got another go at it. So
it was the guy who summons 3 ads while trying to chase you down and melee you.
Okay.
And I was just sitting there trying to just min max as best I could all the damage I had, and I went slow through the entire thing and got every upgrade I could.
Yeah.
So popping the mirror images, trying to frost nova, but he's popping out these ads, and by the time I can cleave the ads down or single target them down, more were coming out. And so eventually what's happening is you're getting pop out 3 at a time. I was getting like 9 ads, and they channel on you the entire time.
Oh, yeah. I actually got that one this week. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so and I got really mad, and I was getting down to like my last, I guess, 3 lives, but I thought it was my last 2 lives. And so I pop open the Googles, I'm doing some research on the guy, and they're just like immediately kite to the other side. He doesn't leash at all. So just kite him all the way to the other side. So that's what I did. He dropped the ads. I ran back to the very entrance, DPS'd him down there. Night fade past him and went back to the other side and did it again. Basically, I just kited from side of the map to side of the map. And I screwed up one time, kind of learned a little lesson there. And then what I thought was my last life, I got him down.
Yeah, it's kind of risky business. Like, I hate doing that because, every couple seconds that you spend in combat, he just progressively gets harder and harder, right? He gets the stack where his damage goes up and up. And so it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You want to kite him to live, but by kiting him to live, the harder he's going to hit, right? So
Right. But see, I was trying to kite him away from his ads.
That sounds like it worked.
It barely. Like, it's like Indiana Jones sliding underneath the doors it's closing. Like, I barely got through there, and I got it done. But hey, I got it done, without anybody having to hold my hand this week. So now I got a legendary. So theoretically, I should be good to go from now on.
Which one did you go with? Did you go with the one that gives you like all the shields?
No, that's the PvP one.
Right.
And
I thought that was going to be your PvP character.
It is, but you still have to do other content with him, and literally that is only good for PvP.
Okay.
And so I did the as you crit, you do more crit damage.
Okay.
So it's pretty much the go-to PvE fire mage. This is for the head.
Okay.
I have both memories where I could have made either or, and I kind of struggle back and forth. But I'm like, I'm trying to gear this guy up right now. I can still use the PvE one in PvP, right? Just crank more damage out. But I can't use the PvP one in like M+ and other things like that while I'm trying to gear him up. So it was kind of like a back and forth I had, and yeah, I went with the PvE one just to try to gear more.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I'm already running into issues where on my Demon Hunter, for example, I think I'm at like 74, 60 Soul Ash right now. So I'm going to have to, I have to make a new legendary next week or else I'm going to overcap. So I got to figure that out, like which one I think is going to be good in 0.05.
Yeah, I've got enough for a rank 3 on my main, the druid.
Yeah.
And I'd already crafted 2. I did the M plus 1, which a lot of people don't like. It's where you can you take photosynthesis, so you can put life bloom on 2 targets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me. The legendary lets you put it on 2 targets, but photosynthesis says if it's on the tank or somebody else besides you, every time that a heal goes off, it has a chance to bloom without eating the life bloom. So you put that on the tank, and then you just layer as many hots on top of them, try to get it as many blooms as possible. And then if it's on you, all your hots are 20% faster.
Right.
So you one on you, one on the tank, and it's a lot of people don't like it because it's very micromanaging.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with the new pandemic changes, because I can actually override a life bloom towards the end there without screwing up the bloom because of how they changed the pandemic.
Okay.
But it's I also have a raid one, which is not really the best slot raid one. But then I didn't do Torghast forever. Like I kind of got bored with it, or I don't know, distracted, and I stopped doing it. So I can make a rank 3, and I maybe should make the rejuvenation one that can kind of spread around the raid, because that's supposed to be the go-to raid one.
Right.
Because the one I have now is a life bloom and either a regrowth or a rejuve, and it's got a chance to cleave and put a rejuve or a regrowth on people around the target, like 3 targets, I think. But it's also proc based and it could fail. I also was thinking about either making a balanced one just so I could maybe do some deeps on it, but I don't know. I probably end up going with the heal one anyways.
Yeah.
I'm back to doing it on that guy now. So
Okay, that makes sense. Other than that, you had a pretty interesting week, right? Your guild was trialing with another guild.
So our problem right now is numbers. We
Right.
have AOTC. We've cleared heroic, but we just don't have enough for mythic. Our guys have been just spamming in trade chat, trying to get people to come raid with us. Anytime I'm in Orbos, I see them doing it. They've been working really hard, but we just aren't getting people.
Yeah, I've been seeing them spam too, actually. I know who they are, so it's like I kind of want to say hi when I see them in trade chat, but I feel like that's kind of toxic.
Yeah. But what they did was they ended up meeting another guild that was in the exact same boat, and they were like, well, why don't we just, kind of combine forces and we could raid together, but, y'all stay with your guild, we stay with our guild, yada, yada, yada. And so what we did was we did on Tuesday kind of a trial run. Like we're basically each guild was trialing the other one out.
Right.
But they kind of wanted to run the show. They wanted us to join their Discord. They wanted their guys to, call things out. They wanted to be their show pretty much. We got in there and, our team basically said they have one healer. And so all of our healers would pretty much be able to go.
Right.
Which was good for us, but our tanks ended up getting the shaft. They had to go DPS. That was the kind of the trade-off there. So we got into the raid, and as soon as I, zoned in, some guy was like, 10k gold if you can beat our healer. I'm like, excuse me? And then, some mage pops in and goes, yeah, I'll double it, another 10k. And I was just trying to, have a fun little raid. The gloves are off at that point, right?
Sure.
And so there's me, my protege druid. We both play druid here.
Mm-hmm.
Drexy, and
Right.
then we have Lowney. He recently switched over to Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman's pretty low gear.
Okay.
And so he was not really in contention to beat this guy. The guy had about the same eye level. He's like 218, 219, somewhere in there.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
And he had really good parses, but he really been healing with crappy healers. That's the funny thing about healing parses is it's a zero-sum game. So if everybody's doing great,
sometimes a healer isn't crappy, right? Sometimes other healers are just quicker. I would think, especially for druid. I just don't see druids really like sniping heals, unless I just don't understand druids that well. But it seems like
you can, but it's not super easy. There's definitely better classes to snipe with, but you can do it. But he was a druid healer.
Okay.
So he, the playing field was pretty even between me, Drexy, and him.
The 3 druid healer cup.
Yeah. A druid.
The dream cup, yeah.
Yeah, a druid is very, very good at sniping a druid. I'll tell you that. We may not be as good, against a holy paladin, but we can definitely snipe other druids. And so, it was a crack the knuckles moment, and we're like, all right, it didn't have to be this way. But we did Shriekwing, and I smashed this guy. I mean, it was not even close on the meters. All of a sudden, the raid leader talking smack kind of went deaf and kind of ignored me. And they're like, kept talking about strategy and other things and about the raid. And I'm like in the chat saying, "Hey, where's my 20K gold?"
Yeah, I
Like,
was about
hey.
to say, did you ever get paid?
I did get paid, but not by them.
Oh,
One of
really?
my one of my guildies, Arc, loved it so much that he ended up paying me and Drexy 20K
That's kind of messed up.
because
No, it's funny,
because
but it's kind of messed up.
well, here's what happened for the rest of the night was Drexy and I. She did beat me too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I always joked that she was like my protege, but she was actually really started cranking now.
Okay.
So what we did was we ended up trading fights pretty much all the way up to Sire,
Mm-hmm.
and then we kind of ran out of time. I think we had a little bit of a later start than that other guild was used to, but we ended up trading fights the entire way. She took Hunger, where at the end of the fight, I mean, the meters after the boss was dead, she had 10K.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
HBS, it was pretty good. I was pretty proud of her for that. So
Those
we
two
ended
fights
up,
in a row are actually pretty fun for healers. It's just constant damage, you know. So that and then Lady afterwards, it's a heal fest.
oh yeah, Hunger was always like my fight because I always parsed really great on it. It's a constant ticking damage, which is Druid's,
Tranquil Dream, yeah.
yes, it's the dream right there because it's not spiky, it's not crazy, it's just constant, slow ticking damage that's constantly coming in, which is just great for the HOTS. And then I got beat on that one. She dominated that one. Then we kind of traded off back and forth. I think the only one that guy won was Sun King.
Okay, that's kind of niche.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we kind of stopped caring a little bit at that point because we weren't getting paid. And
you could cheese that one too because you have like the infusers, right, that drop a buff, and then there's the
oh, he was snagging him as fast as he could, but he was also spamming heals directly onto Kel'Thas, which I don't do that on that fight. I layer everything I've got. I even put my efflorescence up top on top of him instead of the raid, just because I got life boom up there too, so I'm procking the with the efflorescence, I'm procking the free regrowths as well. I just layer everything on them and then kind of take care of the raid. And if I get free procs, I'll regrowth then. But he was just steady spamming it. And I realized that like a minute into the fight, and I was like, at this point, I'm not going to catch up. So, whatever.
yeah, that one's so cheesy too. I mean, you could snipe heals. The occultists drop jars, and like it's not really like a well-known mechanic, but the occultists drop jars that deal a ridiculous amount of healing to the boss if you heal the jars directly, or even like layer your AOE's on them. And so that's actually probably that. Like if you're trying to really snipe heals on that fight, wait until the occultists die, which spawn right at the beginning with everything else. Wait for them to die, which is like 15 or 20 seconds in, and then pop your tranquility. It just your healing will just go sky high. Just as long as you hit the actual jars themselves, it does way more healing than direct healing.
Okay, I did not know that. I have to try that out.
Yeah, I'm learning this stuff as I'm like prepping for the mythic bosses. So it's not something I really knew either, but yeah, that's the play.
That was kind of like our proud moment was and to the guy's credit, he was a very decent healer.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were better at sniping him, which was not really probably ideal for progression, but we didn't come in swinging with a smack talk. So yeah, it felt good. I mean, it's farm content at this point. So
yeah,
but we ended up deciding that the other guild was not really a good fit for us.
okay.
And so our second raid night came around, and since we'd already pretty much cleared the raid, we decided to do some RBGs as a guild.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, that was so fun.
They are fun, dude. As long as you have 10 people, and like especially if not only if you just like join a pre-made group, but if you actually know the 10 people that you're in there with, that's a lot of fun. We did that like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We did it one night, and it was a lot of fun.
It was like almost like those corporate team building retreats or exercises.
Yeah.
It's what it felt like as one of those little things. It was just fun. We ended up having a really great win rate. We had one come from behind victory. I'm trying to think of the map it was. I think it was the mine carts.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you told me it was the minecart map.
And we're talking this other team just stomping the crap out of us. We ended up coming back and winning at the very last second. And they had to be heartbroken about it. But We actually had decent comps. We came in with 3 healers,
Hmm.
which you want for RPGs. We had a DK calling targets, gripping things in.
Okay.
Problem was he was the only melee, so his grip in was really not like he was gripping him into other melee, but at least he was bringing the healer to the front line at least.
Well, that's the thing with PvP, right? It doesn't matter what game you're playing. I mean, positioning is a lot of PvP.
It was kind of a good exercise in, say, communication
Sure.
and also coordination. Calling out targets, knowing strategy and how to adapt to things on the fly. Because PvP, it's not a rehearsed game, just like raiding is.
Hmm.
It's everything's constantly changing. So it was good to kind of see people problem solve on the fly, and we had a blast doing it. After a while, we were kind of hitting this weird wall. I think I want to say we gained about 1,000 elo or current rating, I guess,
Sure.
where we were starting to get like one team, we would just smash them.
Hmm.
Next team would be everybody had a current rating of 1,700
Right.
or 1,600. And here we are, we're maybe like 800 to 1,000, somewhere in there, current rating. And they would just stomp us. I mean, we never really rolled over and got, completely stomped by any team, but it was hard. We had some where we could not, get the healers down or anything like that. And then, next game it'd be another easy team. All right, we'd smash them, and then next game it would be the 1,700s again. And so we had a little bit of that going back and forth. But overall, our win rate was, I want to say, above 60%.
That's pretty good. I think when I did it with the guild, it didn't go that well. I know we did the Eye of the Storm map, and
Yeah.
I think all of us basically got knocked off in the middle. So that's pretty much how ours went.
Ooh.
But I think
No, we had good strategies. Lights was calling strategies, so
okay,
we had a tank that was doing really good at holding flags down,
that's good.
and so it worked out. So yeah, it was a good night, and I think we actually a lot of the guild actually wants to make that a weekly event now.
Okay, are you so you're gonna go down to one raid night? You think going forward?
We may do that until we get the numbers because there's not much else we can do. We don't really want to pug to do mythic.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I know the first boss or two is considered pretty easy, but it's not like we have that let me go get it thing. Like we don't feel like we have anything to prove right
Right.
now. So it's more like kind of keep our sanity, not smash our faces trying to make the triangle fit to the square hole in the little child's toy. So we're trying to build up right now, get our roster up, and then we'll try to hit harder.
Yeah, I think you'd have pretty good luck with the first two bosses. I actually was reading right before we started doing this. I hopped onto MMO Champ and noticed that actually Hungry Destroyer's getting nerfed 1 week after we killed it.
Oh, great!
And it's
Yeah.
like everything that sucks about it is getting nerfed. And so I'm thinking tomorrow my guild's probably just going to roll right through it. We were kind of concerned. We're like, it wasn't like it wasn't a super clean kill when we did it. I think we actually only had one guy died, but he died twice. And we barely beat the Enrage. And it looks like this week it's not going to be an issue. So,
What are you guys going to work on next?
so at the end of last week, we thought we'd work on Sun King. And then I got talking to the raid leader, or the co-raid leader, I guess, at this point. And I think we're going to work on Lady first, and then maybe move into Sun King. And it's kind of awkward because I would say one of the pain points in our guild, and everyone knows it, it's not like I'm like dissing or anything like that, and I'm counting myself because I'm a healer, but our healing squad isn't the best, and I'm one of the healers, so we're trying to figure out kind of the strategy to do on that, because of Lady, you actually 3 heal it in Mythic, and then it's basically a Zerg strat, and so naturally, I mean, it makes sense for me to go on the Windwalker because I do a lot of damage, right? So that's one of the healers you can sub out and actually have a lot of damage. And so we're trying to figure out what to do healing wise there to make that make sense, and like who to come on what.
Yeah, the Disc Priest does provide a lot of mitigation there, though, so that's also tough.
Well, Lady specifically doesn't have like specific abilities to Spirit Shell. I mean, I guess there are technically, but you're okay just having really a druid. It probably wouldn't be that bad on Lady because it's just constant tick damage that goes out just all the time. And so I think we're gonna have a holy priest. We'll have a holy priest, a paladin healer, and probably the other one's a flex in between a druid or a shaman. It probably doesn't matter which one she comes on, to be honest. And yeah, we're probably just gonna try to zerg it down. And it doesn't look that bad. None of the mechanics seem particularly hard. There's actually something kind of interesting you do where you try to cast your immunities on everyone before the ads come out and hope that the boss actually picks you. Because if that happens, the ad just doesn't spawn. And so we got to work on some of those timings.
That's a very precise move there.
Well, it's predictable. At least I think the first one's predictable. And then depending on how good your DPS is, the spell queuing can kind of get screwed up for the second one. But I think there's still a way of predicting that, which I need to kind of look into. But I think that boss should be fairly doable. And then after that, I think we'll move into Sun King, which once again is kind of organizing the healers and the DPS cooldowns. That boss doesn't really change a whole lot. The boss gets a shield that if you're during the healing phase, you have to heal through it. And if you're in the DPS phase, in the intermission, you have to DPS through it. And so essentially you just split your healers up and have them pop their healing cooldowns appropriately. And then you split your DPS up and have them pop their 2 or 3 minutes appropriately because there's 2 shields during the intermission. So
why don't you misweave on that one? Aren't they supposed to be cranking the most on Sun King?
Well, they are but we have 2 priests and Guardian Spirit is broken, right? Because that increases healing.
Right.
And so kind of the idea is you pop 1 Guardian Spirit right off the bat, and then you give Power Infusion and Innervate to your best single target healers and just have them go absolutely freaking nuts. And then once the occultists die, right, they drop those jars that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a Holy Priest cast Divine Hymn to increase healing. And then you have kind of like your AoE healers pop all their cooldowns and try to hit the jars with the second go. And so that's a second Guardian Spirit that goes up. And then right after the occultists die, you have people go and actually suck, use the pedestals, and the non-healers contribute healing. And Guardian Spirit helps with that healing as well. So having 2 Guardian Spirits up is huge. And so I don't think I'll be able to diverge from my priest on that one.
What's the normal progression for most guilds? Do they go Dark Vapors?
I think most go Sun King. It doesn't really matter. I mean, either one's fine. I think most typically go Sun King first.
Because if I was just guessing, I would say Dark Veins harder, but that's just from heroic progression in my book.
Well, the thing is, in the heroic fight, you're constantly like opening and shutting all of the containers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically in the mythic strategy, you open and shut the 4th one like 1 time, and that's it. It's really early on in the fight too. You let it get to like 10% or something like that.
Right.
And then you open it and you close it. And essentially what it does in the mythic version is any of the anima that's stored up, it actually gets distributed to the other jars. And so there's no actual draining effect, right? It's just redistribution. And so that essentially becomes an enraged timer. And so you just drain the 4th one, and then everything else is just, you just let it fill up and hope you kill the boss before it dies, or before anything hits 100%. And so that's why you 3 heal it. So you can just zerg the crap out of it.
Okay.
There's obviously more to it than that, but I mean, that's essentially,
I don't know anything about the changes in the fights.
Yeah, the first 2 bosses, there's pretty much nothing. There's like 1 extra mechanic.
I think Shrinkman has the you can't see the rings until you carry the lantern or something.
Yeah, and that's super easy. Like some people have like a tank or something, or someone like that, carry the lantern around and like give it to everyone in the raid. We simply just drop it on the floor, the lantern on the floor, and just have people self-manage their stacks. And it's exactly the same fight, except for during the intermission, you occasionally have to walk through the lantern to pick up a stack, so you can see the orbs, and that's it. That's super easy. Second boss, every time the Sin Seekers happens, it does something a little bit different, but it's super easy to deal with. And then Hungering Destroyer, it's like anytime you heal someone, you get a stacking debuff. So if you stand inside the miasmas, you get a debuff that hurts you. So you kind of have to like alternate people that help with the soaking.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they step in, heal a little bit, and they got to get out, and somebody else has to.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, we kind of changed the strategy, so that's not exactly how it's done. It's actually the people with miasmas walking into the groups to heal themselves up. So we kind of like flip the responsibility around. Instead of having people like help the people with the miasmas, we actually just have the miasmas walk into the people.
How many miasmas go out at a time?
4.
4?
Yep.
That seems smarter to have 4 people be responsible than.
Well, it's certainly a lot easier to track, especially as a disc priest that's focused on trying to keep track of my own like cooldowns, and then trying to keep track of the boss's cooldowns, and then trying to pick out who's screwing up. It's a lot easier to kind of micromanage things when you can see specifically the 4 people that are responsible for keeping themselves alive. That's ultimately what we settled into.
All right. Well, this week kind of surprised me in Mythic Plus because I thought it was going to be not really a fun week. I usually don't like the Tyrannical weeks, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised. We had Tyrannical, Quaking, and Raging, and Prideful as well. I thought it was a pretty easy week.
Yeah, and I thought it would be beforehand. I think I mentioned that last episode, and I was thinking that all week. I'm like, man, this is a push week, and like no one thinks it is because it's Tyrannical.
Mm-hmm.
But Quaking and Raging together on a Tyrannical week is so ignorable because Raging just doesn't like even really do anything when the ads aren't fortified. I mean, they still hurt, right? It's 100%, but it's 100% on non-fortified ads, and so it's not as nasty as it normally is. And then Quaking is kind of whatever, just don't bring too many melee into your group, and you're fine.
Not Tyrannical, Raging. I still dispelled, but it was more like, I'll dispel, this one particular ad per pack.
Yeah, sure.
Plus Tyrannical, you're doing some pretty big trash pulls this week.
Yeah,
bigger than we're used to. I liked it. We hadn't usually done that. I know we did a necrotic wake together, and you pretty much pulled all the way to the side over there on the right side, plus everything on the left and in front of us as well.
Yeah, actually, I think that's gonna be my normal path. I had done that in I had done that in a fortified week, and it worked out just fine. I'm getting a lot better at my cooldown management as a tank and like knowing what I can actually deal with,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so necrotic wake, I pull. So there's a non-elite pack to your left when you first walk in. Then there's an elite pack in front of you, and then just down the stairs there's an elite pack, and then to the right of that there's a non-elite pack. So typically I pull all 4 of those together to the one harvester that doesn't move, and that's usually where we DPS it down. That's our big cooldown moment. And on top of that, there's 5 wandering soldiers that just go back and forth, and I've also been grabbing that, so I'm making that a 5 pull right off the bat now. And then once that goes down, then you just have you have the spear off to your right, and then there's a 2-pack of harvesters in front of that. And so it's that which gives you your pride, and then you do boss, and then you go over to the right, and you pull some guys up on the ledge, and then you're done with that room. And then after that, I basically pull everything in the next room together. That's kind of the new hotness that I've been doing. I picked that up, I think, in an MDI, and I've kind of augmented it to something that works for me. So I pull everything but the mini boss at the very end. I pull everything else together with the orb, the anima orb, which gives you another pride, and it's perfect timing as long as you pull it exactly like that. The very last ad that dies will give you the pride, so there's like no way of screwing that up. And then you can use that. What's that?
That first that not the 2 guys off to the left, but the first like pack, where you single target the guy down, and when he dies, they all die.
Well, it's a necromancer, yeah.
Necromancer. All right. I noticed you went between the little 2-pack on the left and the necromancer's pack. You went around behind them, grabbed the stuff in the back, and then came back towards us. It was an interesting pull because I hadn't seen it and I wasn't really expecting it.
Yeah, that's kind of my new pull. So I pull. There's the big guy with the bone shield that paths.
Right.
So he fears, right? So I kind of put him as my focus target for kicking. And so I grab the anima orb and I tag him. And then there's I think they're called bag blights. There's a pack of that in between the bone guy and the necromancer. So I kind of like body pull all of that over to the necromancer and then pop the anima orb. And I think the anima orb silences. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it does. And so it just like silences everything, and everything is stacked up, and it all gets melted down pretty quickly. And then I just make sure to kick the guy that fears, and it all dies like in a nice neat pile, like even really without many cooldowns.
Doing the anima orb, it really was not any harder to heal.
No.
It was very smooth, and usually that 1 pack can be kind of a nuisance because the necromancer is just free casting.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I think the anima orb silences, and so I mean, like pretty much everything there, right? The 2 guys that follow the bone mancer. I don't know what I'm calling him, a bone mancer. I don't think that's actually his name.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, sure, the bone mancer. The guys that follow him, plus all the guys around the necromancer are casters, right? So as long as they're silenced, it's really whatever. And then that gives you pride, which you pull into the mini boss with the pride, which helps with that, And then the room after that, I pull a bunch of stuff together, and I don't know, it goes really quickly now.
Funny story about that. That was a very smooth run, and I ended up doing I want to say 11 or 12 of my hunter with my guild, and a good chunk of our server is French Canadian.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know that when we decided to roll over here.
Well, and Indonesian apparently. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. We were on Kel'Thuzad last expansion, Alliance side, and we came over here.
Zul'jin Horde, yeah.
Yeah, Zul'jin Horde, and I did not know this, but there's a lot of French Canadians, so a good chunk of my guild is French Canadian,
right?
And I was the only American in this run.
Okay.
And for the first time ever, I was kind of caught off guard. They were all speaking French to one another.
That's funny.
Well, it was just easier for them.
Yeah.
And you could pick up a keyword here and there. Mm-hmm. Luckily, one guy was actually calling out, interrupt this in English.
Okay.
But we got to the little ziggurat that floats above, where you fight the abomination boss.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pride pop there, and they all wanted to skip the pride, right? But they had discussed all of this and game planned it all out and everything, and made sure everybody was on the right page in French. So pride pops, and I'm like, "Oh, let me get this down quick."
They all have their invis potions.
I'm hitting, cooldowns and popping the pride, and I hear them, spooky, and I was like, I didn't know, but it was a funny moment. I think I had my mic muted. I think my kid was watching cartoons or something in the background. So
yeah.
Afterwards, I was like, guys, if you're going to call an audible, I need it in English because I did not speak any French.
That's funny they did that like at 11 though. That's a pretty like next level strategy. Yeah, they like you kill like the last thing up in the necropolis in the corner to make sure all your people are over in the corner, right? Because the pride spawns within like 5 yards of a random player.
And they did it perfect.
Then you invis potion and then pull the boss. That's crazy actually that they tried that in like an 11.
Well, so here's what happened. We had the guy re-roll to Resto Shaman for our raid.
Right.
And so we're trying to gear him up at the same time. I was on a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And my hunter's not really that geared. He's 209. Not bad, not great. But, if I got a piece, I would, be able to feed it to him. But the healer, Drexy, ended up rolling tank. And
okay.
I'd been trying to talk her into doing like an alt or roll a tank or something like that to have some more fun. And she was pretty hesitant about it. And then she ended up doing it and liking it. And it was the smoothest thing ever, bear tanking. And they got the pride over into that corner, dropped it there, and I completely missed the telegraph there. And so I was popping cooldowns, trying to get it. I mean, they immediately recovered. We had a trash pack. We ended up pulling into it.
Yeah.
AoEing everything down. I think we kind of focused the pride to get it down first and then finishing everything else off. But it didn't wipe us. It didn't really do anything. But yeah, we got it. But it was really funny. But they executed it perfect. I just didn't know that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, I think we kind of did that too, didn't we? I'm trying to think of back at the run, but I remember Lights getting annoyed that I kept saying, this pride is going to spawn before this pack. This pride is going to spawn before this pack. I said it like 4 times during the dungeon because we screwed up the count somewhere. Something got body pulled that I didn't want body pulled.
It was at the very first room. It was those little patrol guys. Or maybe I don't even know if it's patrol guys.
No, it's
on the ledge.
Yeah, no, I
remember. Was standing too far to the left.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it was, but somebody pulled and it just enough, barely threw off our count just a tad bit.
Well, I'd seen that before, and I knew exactly where it was going to spawn, and I was kind of whatever about it. I just knew we were going to have to deal with a pride during the very last pack right before the Stitchwork boss with the hook. I knew it was going to spawn there, and I was just like giving everyone a heads up, like, you need to save your cooldowns for this, because that pack isn't too bad, because it's not the one that does the mutilate and the tenderize, but it does throw like a lot of poison everywhere. And so I just wanted to make sure that people had cooldowns and they were aware that the pride was going to come up. But yeah, it worked out fine.
Yeah, both those runs were very clean. What do? We did like a 15, and then I think I did a 12.
We probably did 15
on the hunter. But yeah, it was tyrannical quaking, a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm almost like done with 15s. Like I'm actually kind of getting bored with 15s. I'm seeing people do some crazy stuff. I was watching Growl today stream on Twitch, and his group was running 2 tanks. Like 2 low geared tanks and doing 18s. It's like, dude, like this content is getting so like we're overgearing this so hard now. It's time to bump it up,
Yeah, and I think next week's going to be a real good week to push some keys.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be Fortified, Bursting, Volcanic, and Prideful. And I believe that, a lot of the big names are calling that the big push week, like the number 1 push week. Not the biggest fan of Bursting because it can get kind of nasty.
Yeah, I was gonna say Quaking Raging is way easier than Bursting Volcanic, but at the same time, Fortified is easier than Tyrannical. I mean,
Yeah,
for most groups, I would say. Some dungeons, I don't think so, but
and you just melt those bosses away. So
yeah.
I think across the board, it's going to be pretty easy week. The good thing about bursting now is you can dispel it.
Yeah.
So if your group has multiple dispels, definitely use them.
Yeah, I know I tried healing Bursting on my Priest a couple weeks ago, last time we had it. And I wasn't a big fan, but I didn't like it was still a pretty new Priest. And I just it was my first time doing Bursting, and I'm pretty sure I went right into like a 15 or something like that, where it's like maxed out,
Yeah.
And so I just wasn't really expecting it. I think I was using my individuals dispel too much and not mass dispelling enough. But I think my group also kind of thought I had mass dispel like every time they pulled something, and they didn't realize I actually had a cooldown, So
It's actually got a pretty long. It's like a minute or something.
yeah, I think it's 45 seconds.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. I think it maxes out at 15 key as far as like the damage it'll do.
Yeah, the scaling, right?
The scaling of it. You can still stack it up by killing a whole bunch of things all at once.
Right, and not killing things at the same time is bad too.
Yeah, volcanic, not really a issue at all.
Right.
It's first off, it is nothing like BFA. You can get hit by it, and all it's going to do is interrupt you. Really, the damage is so negligible in my book. So it's really a non-factor.
Well, the interesting thing with next week is actually the return of the first week of fixes. So we've kind of restarted the cycle, right? And
is this okay? Yeah, you're right.
Yep. So this restarts a cycle completely. So anything we did in week 1, this is exactly what you're going to see. So it'll be kind of interesting to compare it, to week 1. But which is kind of funny because we did end up doing a 10 our very first week, which was kind of a high bar for us. We weren't really sure what to expect in our brand new characters, and we ended up getting a Plague Fall down, which out of all the bosses or all the dungeons to do on the first week, that's kind of a funny key to do.
Yeah, and I think we were still kind of learning Prideful. And
yeah, for sure.
Min-maxing that to get it at the right times. And
well, people didn't even know about the plague borers and stuff like that, right? So we were just kind of individually doing the plague borers and not realizing, we could use those to our advantage to speed everything up. But
yeah, and you actually wanted to try going past them and bringing things back, didn't you? To the plague borers to try to do a little bit of cheese, wasn't that like a little something you wanted to try out?
I mean, I want to do that kind of stuff now, but I don't think I even knew about the plague wars.
No, I'm not talking about then. I'm talking about now. Isn't that what?
No, my new strat. I don't even think you've seen my new strat. Yeah, I basically copy what all the high key people are doing now, and I drag most of the dungeon to the plague borer gauntlet, and then the doctor at the very end of the plague borer gauntlet. You can do various things to get around him, right? So you wait for one of the plague borer cycles to go through, and then you get about 30 seconds before the next one goes through. And you can I think you can imprison him, you can mind soothe him. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. If you have a priest, just mind soothe him and then hug the left wall, and you can just walk right around him. And then when you get down to the bottom, you just need to basically drag everything back to the plague borers. And a good tip for that, the purple slime, and I'm forgetting what the name of it is now, the congealed slime. If you have him in the group when the plague borer goes off, his aura actually reduces the dot. And so you either want to pull him out after the plague borer goes off, because he'll take full damage from it, but everything else won't, right? So you want to grip him out or push him out or something like that, or else you just want to do everything without him and then kind of kill him later. If you time it right, you can actually get that 60% from the next room. You can actually get the pride to spawn and then use the plague borers to kill the pride as well. So I mean, there's just
really?
Yeah. So there's a ton of time you can save doing that.
And see, that's the fun stuff I like getting out of M+.
Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things we do actually get out of MDI right now, because otherwise I feel like MDI is so stale.
Yeah.
I've been preaching about this for way too long now, but I feel like I need to change it up. But the one good thing you do get out of it is you do see some of these interesting use of mechanics. You have things like that where you're bringing back and using the plague borers to nuke some things down. I didn't even think they could do the pride like that, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, actually they did something crazy this week. So when you first walk in to that dungeon, so when you go around the first corner, you have all the spores there, right? So one of the spores gives this crazy haste buff that a mage can spell steal.
Okay.
And so what they were doing is they were leaving one of them alive and dragging it throughout the entire dungeon. so that their mage could just spell steal it over and over and over. And the funny thing about it was you could CC the mob and he would still cast his particular ability and still get the buff. And so you could leave him CC'd and the mage could get it regardless, if he's actually in combat or not. Well, rather the mage himself stays in combat, but if the ad itself, is CC'd, you can still get the spell steal off. So you just had this giant mage, and I'd recommend you take a look at that on YouTube. But literally, like the mage model grows as he gets this buff, and it stacks. And so you have these towering mages walking through the instance, and they look like giants, and they just have this ridiculous cast speed. But yeah, it's kind of entertaining watching them do that this week.
That's kind of cool. Do they stack mages or just take one?
No, they just brought one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have. Can you stack classes in
I don't think you can anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool that they did that, though. So both groups did it?
Yeah. The MDI is kind of getting interesting. People are starting to shift the meta from bringing a Holy Pally, from a Disc Priest to a Holy Pally, and then they're actually rocking a Shadow Priest with it. And so they have a Shadow Priest and a Holy Pally that the Shadow Priest is essentially like a support role, right? He's running Night Fae to give everyone the buffs, and then he's running Power Infusion to give that to whoever. And then the Holy Pally cranks out, 13k DPS or whatever, just because it's a Holy Pally.
And they're ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, the Venthyr Holy Pally. And it's got me kind of wanting to play a Holy Pally now. At least try it out, because that just seems so good, dude. Having like a 13k, DPS on like Hakar or something like that as a healer, dude, that's nuts.
Melt it. I've been seeing the memes on Reddit, of the Paladin switching over from Kyrian over to Venthyr because of the MDI.
Well, people are running it on like Mythic Stone Legion, for example. So the Mythic Stone Legion gives you a ton of extra adds. And so they're actually using, prop pallies and Holy Pallies. They're using the Ashen Hollow as like part of their strategy in killing the boss, just because it does so much freaking damage.
Yeah, that is crazy. So you're going to level that up next? That's going to be your next project?
Maybe. I've already got one at like 42 or 43. And I might I might just level it for the memes, because I kind of want to try it in a dungeon, but I'm not planning on maining it, at least not right now. So
that'd be kind of cool. So if you're just kind of doing like a favorite M+ comp, you do that Holy Paladin Venthyr, what would you have for your tank?
The more I play with it, the more I actually like bears.
That was going to be what I said too.
Yeah, what I healed this week, I was healing a guy that typically plays Boomkin. And we just had him tank just to have 5 people together and have fun, and it was like a Friday night or something like that. And he's tanked a couple times. I know he's a good bear, and he's got like the legendary and everything like that. So it's not like he's not ready for it, But man, he doesn't take like any damage.
No, that's the thing about them. They don't. While they pretty much become indestructible. I know the big complaint was they're not cranking out as much DPS.
Well, so I think the play is you run like trees, right? Mm-hmm. So then you pop your trees, and then you moonweave, right? Isn't that what like Dorky Bear does?
Yeah. You pop the trees so you can like have a moment where you can swap out, because you lose all of your damage reduction when you swap out a bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so you pop Heart of the Wild, and you can blow some DPS there.
You can evoke, as a Moonkin.
Right, you can evoke, and yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to it, and Bear is one of those things that I feel like it's very easy entry level to get into and not be bad. But with all the stuff we have now that's in the toolkit that you can get, with the covenants and things, the skill ceiling, I believe, is much higher now. Like, you can actually get really, 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 really good at Bear, which before you couldn't. It was an easy tank, it was a simple tank. But they're really, you were kind of limited on your ceiling, and so I'm kind of wanting to see more bears now.
Yeah, I think running a bear, and I don't think mages can be replaced. Mages are just too good. The 1 minute cooldown on combust,
and then you can kind of get that lower.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it's normally more than a minute, but I think you get it down to a minute by casting Fireball or something like that. I don't play a mage, but is it? Well, you play a mage, is that right?
Actually, I'm wrong. That's actually PvP where you can farm it with the fireballs, right?
Oh, I think you do it. I think you can do it in PvE as well.
All I know is that whenever I run with them, they have it up all the freaking time.
Yeah, yeah. They cast it on the Pride before the boss, and somehow have it up for the boss. So
right.
That's interesting. But
that's the whole reason they go Night Fae, is so they can have that reduction to get combust back faster.
Yeah, that plus uncapped damage. I just think they're irreplaceable in M plus. Plus a lust, a natural lust, which is nice.
Right.
I think the Disc Priest or the Holy Pally. I mean, we're kind of moving into the meta comp, right? But I think a bear tank, which probably isn't super meta, I think that's really good with a Fire Mage. And then I guess either of those healers. I guess a Shaman's all right too. Probably with the thing I like about Shaman is one, they have infinite mana pool, but two, they had the Elemental, and I think that's a great, another cooldown. If things go downhill, you can just pop the Elemental out and recover, right?
Right, and it also could give the bear a chance. I don't know. Maybe if the trees were down, you could have the Elemental come out, and that gives him a chance to outweave as well.
Yeah. I still like the Hunter, and I still like the Boomkin. I think that's still the perfect comp right now.
Well, the Hunter's got Wild Spirits, which is not capped either, right?
Right.
And so you got that, you got the Mage, and then you got the Starfall coming out. That's great cleave. Holy Paladin, great damage.
Well, I think, too, the Hunter cooldown is 2 minutes, and I think Convoke is 3, right? I mean, technically Convoke, it's either Convoke or is it Eclipse? One of them is 2 minutes, but typically you save them for each other.
Right. One is 2, one is 3 minutes.
Right.
And I play a Druid, but off the top of my head, I can't remember which is which because I just press them together and wait till they're both up.
Yeah.
But I only play balance when I'm questing or World Quest or Torghast or something like that.
Right.
But still, when you press that button, things melt. Convoke is just so good.
I think there's a reason the meta comp right now is the meta comp. I mean, one, you get a lot of invisibilities out of that comp, right? Almost everything has invisibility.
Right.
Unless you have like a priest. But two, I mean, it just all the utility, the uncapped AoE, I mean, it just makes sense. I don't know if they need to tweak everything else. I don't know. I don't know how they could fix that, unless there's some sort of a fix that comes out next season that just like game changes that. I don't know. Right now, I don't see the meta comp really changing other than maybe like the priests with the Night Fate changes somehow swapping around. Maybe Shadow Priest will get more popular and then you'll run a Holy Pally. I don't know.
Well, if you could play anything and it didn't matter about queue times, what your friends were playing, what your guild needed, what would you want to play?
Right now,
like nothing. You have no restrictions.
Yeah,
you could get in. You could do content. You could do whatever you wanted. What would you play?
I think I'd play the Demon Hunter.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd play it. I played it last expansion as Havoc, and I think I might have played a little bit of Vengeance, but not much of Vengeance. But I really like Vengeance right now, and I really like. Probably my favorite thing to do throughout the week is running dungeons as my tank. So that's probably what I'd do.
Yeah, I really love tanking a BFA on the Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say same thing to me though. A good chance to finally DPS. If I wasn't looking at any restrictions, because that's one of the things that kind of drives me towards tank and towards healer, is queue times. I can kind of jump the queue and get in groups.
Yeah.
2 of my favorite DPS classes that I've played was Warlock, and I loved it, or Enhanced Shaman. And I actually did Mythic rating on the Enhanced Shaman and had a blast with it, but, it's not really considered very meta right now.
Well, I think Shamans are crazy strong. I think they're underrated. I think they're literally the most underrated class right now. Especially Elemental. Elemental's crazy good.
And they're great across the board in my book. You see them in arena and they can still do work,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's probably what I play, is something like that.
The funny thing about Shamans and Elemental specifically is they flew under the radar, right? Because during the progression for like World First, you didn't see any Elemental Shamans. And the only reason you didn't see any Elemental Shamans is because their legendary didn't drop from the world boss for like 4 weeks. And so by the time they became like viable, everything had been cleared. So they just like completely flew under the radar. But if you actually look at like the logs right now, they do really well. I think they're like third or something like that. Like they're crazy good. And like they're not meta either. And Blizzard's about to buff them again in 0.05. I'm pretty sure they're getting buffed again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them like towards the top. I think it'll be Warlock and then maybe Alley Shaman.
I might need to dust off the old Shaman and get him back into the rotation again.
Yeah, and then screw you if you play an Enhanced Shaman in PvP, because you do ridiculous healing.
Yeah, and then they get a hold of you and you just disappear.
Yeah, Lava Lash or whatever. Screw that spec, dude.
Yeah, it's I loved it so much with Mythic progression because I was playing that. I don't remember what you were playing, but I know Lights was playing Boomkin.
Oh, I was playing a Monk. Yeah, that was the tier I played.
Were you healing? Were you healing?
No, I was DPS.
but yeah, I remember it was, kind of, this was the first tier of Legion. And I remember it kind of went back and forth who was top DPS, because some fights are range better, some were melee better, but just had a blast on that enhanced shaman.
Yeah, I remember you pumping.
Yeah, I remember the very first boss I ended up winning, and we actually had another enhanced shaman that I was competing with. If I have that competition, I do so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And we had another guy, and he turned out to be actually a very popular streamer, and I had no idea.
Yeah, I remember
Uh,
him. That was
yeah,
super weird.
yeah, I had no idea. I'm just raiding against this guy, week after week, and then I randomly, clicking through Twitch, I see him there streaming, and I'm
On the
like, wow,
front page, yeah, it's like this
yeah,
random guy from our guild. He was streaming
yeah.
like Fortnite or something, something random. It wasn't WoW. I mean, we played WoW with him, but yeah, he
He
was
had
on
a
the
ton
front
of
page.
viewers. It was crazy. I was like,
Yeah,
what? Really? Okay, that's cool.
yeah, it's super random.
All right. Do you have anything else for this week?
No, I don't think I have anything else for the week.
Be sure to check out our YouTube channel where we post the podcast as well. As far as we also have it on every place that you can find podcasts that we can think of. But in there, you'll find our Discord server, and you can come to our server and actually interact with us and ask us questions if you need to or if you want to.
Do it.
Do it.
Have a great week.